Hello, podheads, and welcome back to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. I'm your host, Holly Spear,
This is Kate Carter.
And I'm Kylie Colwell.
and today's my case, and I have a little serial killer unsolved for you guys.
First of all, can't believe you're doing a serial
Yeah, do you
killer.
want the good news or the bad news?
Yeah, I don't think you've done a serial killer before.
I might not have.
I don't know how, because you didn't do Gilgo, did you? Or Kylie, did you
Yeah,
do
that
that
was
one?
Kylie.
You did Gilgo, Kate.
Did I? I can't remember shit. You guys know that. I don't know what I did yesterday. So,
So before we kick things off today, I'm just gonna make my usual plea for you listeners to please rate our podcast, go follow us on all of our social medias, follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify. We absolutely love you and love doing this podcast for you. So if you enjoy it, send it to somebody who likes true crime, rate us, give us a follow, all the things. Love ya. And we'll just go ahead and hop right in. In the spring of 1992, a string of murders along the I-70 corridor struck fear into the hearts of the Midwest. Over the span of a single month, 6 lives were brutally taken in 5 separate incidents. Each victim, mostly young women working alone, was executed in a single shot from a .22 caliber firearm. This is the story of the I-70 killer.
this is some good shit, Holly. I like this story a lot.
Our story begins with the first victim, Robin Fuldar, in Indianapolis in 1992. Robin is 26 years old and she's the manager at Payless Shoes. Today's Wednesday, April 8th, and Robin is not scheduled to work today, but her friend and coworker calls Robin and tells her that she's just not feeling good and asks Robin if she'll be able to come in to work today. Robin tells her friend that she would be happy to cover her shift. Payless is like generally shorthanded in general, or this Payless is. So it's fairly often that a worker is working alone by themselves. So that's going to be the case today. Robin is the only one working. The district manager needs to get a hold of Robin a few times throughout the day, but she's unable to get a hold of her. The district manager starts to get concerned. So he or she ends up calling a lady named Latresa, who works at a Speedway gas station across the street from Payless. The manager tells Latresa that she's been trying to get a hold of one of the employees at the Payless across the street, Robin, numerous times, but no one's answering the phone. He asked if Latresa wouldn't mind going next door and checking on Robin. So Latresa does just that. She enters the Payless to see the store completely empty and the cash register open. So around 2 p.m., Latresa calls the police and reports that she believes that the Payless store had been robbed. So she doesn't wait around. She immediately calls the police. She backs out of the store. She doesn't go any further. She knows that there's a robbery that has just happened or actually maybe happening in the process. So she just goes right back across the street and calls the police. The police arrive around 2:21 and they find Robin dead on arrival. Robin is found in the back of the store in the stockroom, and police believe that a person entered the store and forced Robin to the back and then removed less than $100 from the register. Then Robin was shot twice, once to the right side of her head and then to the back of the head, execution style. The shot came from a pretty close range with a small caliber gun. Her purse, coat, and car were found at the store. So, surprise, surprise, there are no cameras in this Payless in 1992. Police's first inclination is that it was a robbery gone wrong, since there was obviously money stolen from the register. Her purse was found there and nothing appeared to be disturbed in the purse, so that was a little odd. But then they started rethinking this because it's not really a typical store that you would rob, like a Payless. There's not a lot of cash on hand. We know that there's a gas station right across the street, which would be kind of a more normal location to get robbed. Also, all the money wasn't taken out of the register, just $100, which is really weird because, I mean, I don't feel like if you're in a rush, like you're not really, like you would be in a rush because you don't know if another customer is going to walk into the store, but like, why not just grab all of the cash? It's just,
Yeah, that's just an opportunity killing, or like not even an opportunity killing. Like they're obviously not there to rob the place.
yeah.
The $100 is just like a little trophy, just a little
Yeah,
gift.
it
Yeah,
is.
it's almost like
Yeah,
a little what do they call those when they take something from the scene? Like a little trophy.
trophy.
Yeah. He remember it or something. It was a weird situation. So there's $50 left in the register after the killing. Plus, the Payless was not in a desolate location. It's located in a busy area of town where there would be a lot of people walking by. There's other stores, gas stations, fast food places, literally right beside the Payless. It's almost kind of like in a strip mall situation. So this is just a really odd place to rob, and honestly, an odd place to kill. But anyways,
I would never think to go to a Payless. Like, even if you were going to rob it and you were going there for money, that's not the place you would go.
no, it's not. So I think that was police's first, like, they were like, oh, this was a robbery. But then they started researching a little bit, or like looking at the scene a little bit more and realizing, like, no, probably not. Another thing that they thought was maybe Robin knew the killer. Robin was by herself. Maybe the killer knew that she was by herself. It was preferred that there be more than one person working, but that did happen a lot. In addition, the close range shot to the head seemed personal. Police asked that anyone who went into Payless store that day come forward. Now, the last transaction recorded on the register was at 1:12 p.m. for one pair of women's shoes and one pair of men's shoes. And we know that the police were called at 2. So this was likely the killer. It was the last transaction. Robin must have been murdered right before Latresa went to check on her. The medical examiner believed that she had been murdered sometime around 1:30. So police believed that this was a tight timeline. The person that made the transaction at 1:12, police believed had to be the killer. So they most likely pretended to come in, being a customer, to disarm Robin or find out if she was alone. And also, as you know, this Payless happens to be pretty close to the Interstate 70, just about 6 miles, actually. So later on, one person will come forward and he says that he thinks he saw something. And this person is Jeff. He's the manager at a paint store nearby. And he says that he saw a man in a green jacket walking down the pike coming from I-465. He said the man was carrying a bag and he just assumed that he was a hitchhiker. He said that then this random man just repeatedly circled the building and sat outside the curb nearby. He said he never saw the man go into the Payless, but he was obviously like right in front of it. The man also sat in the parking lot of the paint store for a while. And then he said around 2, he lost sight of the man and just kind of stopped like looking out the windows of the paint store. The eyewitness then claims that he saw the green jacket man trying to hitchhike a ride north. Police believe that if this man was the perp, he was possibly waiting outside the store to determine if Robin was alone. After gathering evidence, police believed what we thought: the robbery was a second motive, and the primary motive was murder. And this is really the only lead that we have. We know that it was just a spree killing and that a man that may or may not be connected to it, he may just be a hitchhiker, was seen in the parking lot of that store. And we also have no DNA evidence, by the way. There's no assault on this victim. And of course, it's a store, so we know that we have like fingerprints and palm prints and footprints everywhere. Nothing like in the blood or nothing that would suggest that the killer left any sort of physical or
Probably
DNA.
didn't even have to touch her, like.
Yeah. Yeah, seemed like it was a walk in, walk out kind of situation. So over the next 29 days, people would clock into their jobs, which happened to sit along I-70, not knowing that they could be next. Patricia Majors is a 23-year-old owner of Lethbridge de Elegance. It is a bridal shop in Wichita, Kansas. Patricia and her husband had recently purchased the store only about 2 months ago and also owned a tuxedo and formal wear boutique too. And I think they're like right beside each other. Patricia runs this bridal store. And on Saturday, April 11th, 1992, just 3 days after the murder of Robin, Patricia was working at the bridal shop with her 23-year-old employee, also named Patricia. So 2 Patricias, Patricia Majors and Patricia Smith. Patricia Smith is the 23-year-old employee. Patricia Smith is a nursing student and she's just newly married. So it's now past 6 p.m. And the store normally closes at 6 o'clock, but there was a man who had called ahead and he asked if he could pick up a tuxedo after 6, just swing by and pick it up. So both of the women stayed at the store a little bit later. I believe they went ahead and like closed up the store, like started doing the end of day things. And they're just kind of like sitting there waiting for this guy to just come pick it up. At some point after 6, the women opened the door for a man that they believed was the customer picking up the tux. However, this man ushers the women to the back of the store. which is like a little office area. Then the man shot the women in the back of the head with a 22 caliber semi-automatic gun. Then the man stole some cash from the register. And as the killer was about to make a run for it, get this, the actual customer who's coming to pick up his tux walks into the store and he comes face to face with the I-70 killer. The innocent guy just picking up his tux notices that this man in the store has a gun. The
Oh,
killer tried to usher this man to the back of the store, presumably to kill him like he had killed the women. But the man refused. And so the killer just tells him to leave, and he left. Had he cooperated, he would have definitely been killed. So the guy, he runs away, he leaves the store, whatever. Unfortunately, the man was so scared after this happened that he did wait an hour before calling the police.
what? Okay. I don't, that doesn't make any sense. You're so scared you're not going to care like that. No, no, sir. Come on, man.
Well, okay, I will say, playing devil's advocate, it being 1992, it's possible too that he like was so scared that he went all the way home, thinking that maybe like he was gonna get followed or something and used his home phone to call the police
That's true.
because
Did
he
they?
may not have had a cell phone.
I looked it up. The first phone mass produced was in 1992. It was the Nokia,
Yeah, okay.
that little black one. Yeah. But I assume he probably did not have a phone.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
So there would have been places along the road that he could have called. So I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate. Like maybe he
Yeah.
was so scared he goes all the way home and calls when he's safe in his home. I don't know, just giving the benefit of the doubt. But
Yeah.
yeah, it does suck that he waited an hour because on the scene, police arrive and they find the women in the back, of course. Patricia Majors, the owner, was dead, but Patricia Smith was severely wounded. So had he called, maybe it could have made a difference. It's been over an hour since she was shot, and Patricia is still clinging to life. So she's rushed to the St. Joseph Hospital, where she was sadly pronounced dead on arrival. So this man who came into the store was able to provide enough detail about the killer for investigators to get a composite sketch. The killer was described as a slender white male with reddish hair and a stubbly beard. He was about 5'7", 5'8", and the gun that he had was described as kind of like an Uzi style gun.
The nose, man.
Yeah. I mean, it is a pretty good composite, I would say, compared
The
to,
lazy eye. Yep.
yeah.
Oh, so the picture on the right, he looks like a skeleton.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Also, that's some good money for 1992.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the only crime of the I-70 killer where there's more than one victim. Seems like possibly the killer thought that maybe only one woman was working just because it doesn't fit his MO to enter a store where there's more than one worker. We're going to find out that his MO is, killing women that are working alone at kind of like these specialty stores. So it's possible that like one woman was already in the back or he just didn't see the other woman. So, of course, police would bring forward both husbands of the women and question them, but they were both ruled out very quickly. At this time, police do not know this murder is connected to the murder of Robin. So they're not even taking into consideration that Indianapolis is about 17 minutes from Interstate 70. Like they're not really thinking about
Oh,
that.
okay. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
not really thinking that these murders can be connected. But just 16 days later, on April 27th, 1992, the I-70 killer would strike again. 40-year-old Michael Milo McCown, or Mike, is working at his mother's store called Sylvia's Ceramic Shop in Terre Haute, Indiana. The store is about a 2-mile drive from I-70, the closest site yet to the interstate. Also, another like weird little twist. This ceramic shop was actually a barber shop run by the father of this family for 20 years, and it had just transitioned into the ceramic store. So just another little like random twist. Investigators, for some reason, said that they believe the killer never saw Mike's face, and I really have no idea why this is or why investigators think that. Investigators say that they also believe that Mike was reaching for a small white ceramic house on the shelf when he was shot at close range in the back of the head. Mike is shot again in the back of the head with a 22 caliber. So this one's a little different. Obviously, Mike is a boy, but also that he was not led to the back like the other victims. But like in the other cases, less than $50 was stolen from the store. And again, there was a small amount of money left in the register. So this was weird. And this time, the victim's wallet was also taken. So the killer left money in the register but took time to check the man's pocket for a wallet. The women likely wouldn't have had a wallet on them, but a man would, just something to think about. And I don't even know where I'm going with this part, but it's just I don't know. Maybe he didn't have time to look for the women's wallets. Maybe it was just easier to grab the man's. Who knows? So the body is discovered by a customer at about 4:15 p.m. No witnesses reported seeing the killing. Now, again, Michael is the only male victim. Why is that? The killer's MO is targeting females that may be working alone. He would have likely assumed that the shop was run by a female and likely just one woman, Sylvia's Ceramics. Also, Mike has long hair and was known to wear it in a ponytail.
Mm-hmm.
So if the killer is just canvassing the store from the outside, like he might have done in Patricia Smith's and Patricia Major's murder, he may have likely mistaken Michael for a woman. And then when he realized he was too far deep. So that might be one of the reasons that he wasn't led to the back like the women. He was kind of killed from surprise, like he was reaching for something. His back was turned to the killer. And it seems like what the police suggest is that it was complete surprise. He was just shot and he didn't never see the killer's face.
See, I was thinking maybe he's like canvassing and watching these shops for a minute, but I guess it's just kind of pretty sudden.
Yeah. And it may be different depending on the store. I think that we know that he made like a really rash decision going in and not knowing that that was a guy, you know? So,
Yeah.
another murder where the killer walked into a seemingly random location, killed, and then disappeared. So, our next murder is Nancy Kiltzmiller, a 24-year-old. She went to Oklahoma State University where she played soccer and graduated with a degree in geography. After graduating, Nancy returned back home to St. Charles. So Nancy starts applying for jobs and is hoping to get a job as a cartographer. She applied at a defense mapping agency, but before she can start working, she needs security clearance. So I think this is like a federal agency. I don't really know what mapping entails, but this is like something to do with geography. So she has about 2 more weeks before her clearance will be back. In the meantime of looking for jobs and checking all the boxes, Nancy picks up a job at Boot Village, a footwear shop in St. Charles, Missouri, where she's actually a manager. So it's May 3rd, 1992, just 6 days after the last murder, and Nancy is scheduled to open the store at noon. As you know, the store is in a busy area, but May 3rd is a Sunday, and a lot of the surrounding stores are closed. And since it is a Sunday, Nancy is going to be working on her own because the store will be slow. Sometime between noon and 2:30, someone walked into the store and shot Nancy in the back of the head and took some money from the cash register. Although it is Sunday, there was actually quite a few people in the surrounding stores, but surprisingly, no one heard a gunshot. However, someone did see the last customer that was in the store. So this was a customer that was in the store with Nancy and the killer before anyone knew there was danger. So there's 3 people in the store, Nancy, the killer, and then this random customer. The customer was with Nancy a few minutes before she was killed. The witness said that this person was a male of medium height with red hair. So this matches the description of the other eyewitness in the case of Patricia. This witness was able to help police create another composite drawing. So there should be 2 composites in what I sent you.
Okay, so the cheekbones are very similar.
Yes. Yeah, that this person has a very like
Eyes.
slender, very
You can obviously tell they were done by 2 different sketch artists.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning towards like a homeless hitchhiker. I think that would explain how skinniness.
Okay.
She's going for it already.
Okay.
Just a thought so far.
Yeah, no, that is. So the final murder occurred on May 7th, so just 5 days later in Raytown, Missouri. Sarah Blessings is 37 years old and she's just newly married. And she went to Empor State College, where she got a bachelor's degree in interpersonal communication with a minor in psychology. Just a little about Sarah. She's an animal lover. She's into health. She was a really good student. She got straight A's. 5 of Sarah's friends actually went in together to run this store. So the name of the store is called the Store of Many Colors. And all 5 of these girls just like went in together on the store and they all 5 run it. So they would sell their crystals, their vitamins, their natural foods. So they're They're whole girlies, they're crunchy, which is cute. So they also would take turns working at this store. And actually, the grand opening was April 18th. So it's May 7th, and it's Sarah's turn to work. And of course, she's working alone. But this murder was a little different than the others. That is because someone heard the murder and saw the murderer. The owner of the video store next to Sarah's store saw a man wearing a gray coat, slacks, and dress shoes walk through the parking lot right to the front of the store and walk inside. The witness then hears loud bangs and saw a man walking towards the direction of Interstate 70. So the witness then rushes to the store to find Sarah's body laying on the floor. Also, a second witness would see this man walking down East 59th Street just 10 minutes later. Let's talk about this investigation of the I-70 killer. And I bet you're thinking that it took a long time for police departments to connect these murders, but that's surprisingly not the case. Actually, within days of Sarah's attack, the police departments of all the states were collaborating. Detectives worked tirelessly to compare evidence, share witness statements, and analyze crime scene details. Police began going through anything connected to I-70. They go through hotel registrations of hotels that are just off the interstate. They're looking to see if possibly two names of people that have rented rooms in these different states line up with each other. They checked license plates at traffic stops. They're doing all the things that, they're supposed to do. So, despite these exhaustive efforts, no solid leads emerged. One significant theory arose from amateur detectives and criminologists, and that was that they noticed that the killer's travel pattern was kind of a little weird. It's hypothesized that the I-70 killer started at one end of the corridor, committing murders at opposite ends before gradually moving towards the center. So, this pattern suggested the possibility that the killer resided somewhere in the middle of the corridor, somewhere in the middle of I-70, perhaps Missouri or Kansas, or he could be a traveling professional, such as a truck driver, a salesman, or someone with ties to the military. So those are the two theories. Like either he lives somewhere in the middle of I-70 or he's just a traveler that's all over I-70. They also think he could be someone with ties to the military because in many of the locations, there was military bases close by or within the towns. So that's another theory. A warning is issued to stores nearby the interstate throughout the country. They warned of young women working alone. There was discrepancies on whether the Wichita cases were connected, but the investigators did conclude the case was connected and they were able to link the case with physical evidence. And they don't say what physical evidence, they've never released that, so we don't know. We really have no idea what that could be.
I guess it could just be like ballistics, like
Yeah.
some gun.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit too because the gun and the bullets are pretty specific. So, investigators also theorize that this killer could be a trucker, traveling salesman, military, or something like that. All of the victims were petite young women with dark hair, although we know that there was one male mistaken for a woman. They also released that they believe him to be a serial killer and not someone killing for money. He's killing to kill. Police then released the exact model of the gun he used in all the killings. It's a semi-automatic 22 caliber pistol. Also, the bullets are polished with jeweler's rouge, which prevents the bullets from jamming and making the gun misfire. So that's a little something that is odd in all of the cases.
I feel like that's someone that knows guns.
Yeah, and leading to my next point, law enforcement officers place significant focus on the murder weapon. They reach out to gun dealers, collectors, and gun enthusiasts, urging them to report any knowledge of this specific firearm, particularly if it had been sold or stolen around the time of the murders. They also ask anyone familiar with someone exhibiting the killer's behavior traits to come forward. While investigators hope that the uniqueness of the gun and ammunition would narrow the suspect pool, this lead has yet to bear fruit. So there was talk in some articles I read of maybe there being hair left at the scene, but investigators have yet to clarify if that's true or not. But they have said that there was no assault on any of the victims, so they don't have like that kind of DNA evidence either. So it kind of makes me think that there was no hair found because they have clarified like no DNA. The public nature of the locations further complicated the investigation. These stores were frequented by many people, resulting in overwhelming amount of unrelated fingerprints and fibers. To build a profile, investigators relied heavily on witness statements. Witnesses described the I-70 killer as a white male in his mid to mid-20s to mid-30s, standing between 5'7" and 5'9". He's a slender build with sandy blonde or reddish hair and droopy or lazy eyelids. Despite these descriptions, no suspects were ever conclusively identified. In 2021, law enforcement released an age-progressed sketch of the suspect, estimating that he would now be between 52 and 70 years old if still alive. So investigators have considered additional victims who may have fallen prey to the killer. In 1993 and 1994, there was a series of murders in Texas that bore similarities to the I-70 killings. In September 1993, 51-year-old Mary Ann Glasscock was killed in Fort Worth at an antique store, followed by a murder of a 22-year-old named Amy Vess in a dance apparel store in Arlington. In January 1994, 35-year-old Vicki Webb survived an attack in Houston, providing a description of her assailant. Although different weapons were used in all of these, the locations and circumstances of these attacks prompted speculation of a connection. Another set of potential victims include those along Interstate 35, which intersects with I-70 near Kansas City. Investigators have speculated that the killer may have extended his range, potentially using different weapons to avoid detection while maintaining his pattern of targeting small retail stores with lone clerks. I don't know if those are connected. I think they think it's possible because it's the same MO, but there was a few differences in those cases as well. Let's talk about suspects. Several individuals have been investigated in connection with the I-70 murders, though none have been conclusively linked. One of these suspects is Herb Baumeister, a suspected serial killer tied to the deaths of several men along I-70 in the 1980s. And if you're a podhead and you listen to Kylie's episode, you probably remember Herb. But just a little recap, Herb is a businessman from Westfield, Indiana, but he lived a double life. Outwardly, he was a successful owner of a thrift store chain and a family man. But he is suspected of murdering at least 11 men. Their remains were discovered in 1996 on his sprawling property of Fox Hollow Farms. Herb targeted men at Indianapolis gay bars, luring them back to his estate where he strangled them during intercourse. His secluded property allowed him to hide these crimes for years. The case unraveled when his wife, alarmed by his behavior and frequent absences, allowed police to search the property. This led to the discovery of skeletal remains scattered along the grounds. Facing mounting evidence, Herb fled to Canada and took his own life in July 1996, leaving no confession. While some have speculated connections between his crimes and other unsolved cases, including the I-70 murders, key differences in victim profiles and methods make this very unlikely. His death left unanswered questions, denying families full justice and closure. So I don't think there's any merit to this. It was just talked about in a few different articles I found, but I'm thinking that this is completely different. Herb's victim and his modus operandi differed significantly from the I-70 killers. We know that Herb targeted gay men and I-70 killer was only women. So another suspect was named Donald Waterhouse. And Waterhouse was suspected after killing his mother and stepfather in Tennessee shortly before the I-70 murders began. His truck was found abandoned near I-70 in East St. Louis. Despite initial interest, authorities later ruled him out as a suspect. Another suspect was Neil Falls. Neil was a violent drifter with a history of crimes against women. In 2015, Falls was killed by a potential victim during an attack in West Virginia. His timeline and location align with the I-70 murders, and he has ties to Kansas during this period. However, no direct evidence has been found to connect him to the killings. Thomas Bruce, known for a violent attack in St. Louis Catholic supply store in 2018. Bruce's actions and location have drawn comparisons to the I-70 killer. However, his crimes involve sexual assault, and we know that the I-70 murders do not. Another, Ralph Leon Jackson. Jackson is convicted of a 2010 shooting on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Jackson's random and public attacks bear some similarities to the I-70 killing. His physical description and history of violence place him under scrutiny, though no concrete link has ever been established. 3 decades later, the I-70 killer's identity remains unknown. Without DNA evidence or direct witness identification, the case depends on breakthroughs in tracing the weapon or on someone coming forward with a crucial tip. Advances in forensic technology and ongoing efforts to re examine cold cases have given investigators renewed hope. The I-70 killer remains one of the most enigmatic figures in American crime history. Yet, for the families of the victims, the hope of justice persists. It may only take one piece of evidence, a recovered firearm, a confession, or a newly uncovered connection, to finally solve this haunting mystery. But that is the story, the unsolved story, of the I-70 killer.
I'm kind of agreeing with Kylie on this one. She said it
Yeah.
really, and I feel like honestly, all the suspects you said, I don't see, really any of them.
Yeah.
Because we have an alarming amount of truck driver suspects for
Yeah.
these like highway killings. For this
Yeah.
one, going to these like small like mom and pop stores, I feel like people would notice a semi like parked in front of like a ceramic shop.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been, I feel like, that in two of the killings at least, there was eyewitnesses that saw a man walking. And then he was walking down other roads trying to get to I-70. So if he had a semi, I think he would have been using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a car. And if he's a traveling salesman, he would use his car like to get away from the murders because that's something you'd probably want to flee from pretty quickly, especially given how public the areas were that he killed in. So I don't know, Kylie, I'm kind of with you.
But then like the money thing's weird. Like if you're homeless, I feel like I would take as much money as I could.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe he is a hitchhiker, but he only cares about killing. Like maybe he's
So weird.
not, maybe that's not a priority for him? Like maybe
Yeah.
he is a hitchhiker, but not homeless. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if there's other cash in the register, like why are you not just taking it?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's kind of creepy to me, like that you would just leave that. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you
Right.
trying, like, are you taking that as like a little like memorabilia from the thing from the killing and you don't actually need it? Or are you like toying with people? I don't know. It's so weird. Or trying to like throw the investigation, like you don't actually care about the money, but you're taking it to make it look like a robbery. I don't know. Okay, do you guys want to hop into overtime? Last time
Um,
we did what should be legal that is illegal. Do you guys want to do what's legal that should be illegal?
Hold on, let me
yes.
tell you, I did get feedback
Okay.
on
Oh,
what should be illegal and isn't illegal. So my aunt, shout out Chacha Ella, she listens to every single episode. She is a New Yorker. She lives in New York. And so obviously you remember at the very end we were talking about how jaywalking is the dumbest ticket or whatever.
Yeah.
She was like, I totally agree with everything. She said I should be able to give tickets to people who double park. That's a good
yes.
one. Yep, I would do that.
Hmm.
And then she said you would understand why jaywalking is illegal if you lived in New York City. As a driver, the thought of hitting someone is heartbreaking, and it shouldn't be allowed that people can cross the street whenever they want to, since there's so many traffic and people here. Totally get that.
Okay, I get that. Kylie, what are some of yours that should be illegal, that are legal? Some actions.
It pisses me off every 4th of July and New Year's. Fireworks before
Yes.
it's dark outside.
Yeah.
Why are you testing your fireworks at 5, 6 p.m.?
Yep.
There should also be a cutoff time.
Yes.
Yes, because I
Yeah.
have I hear fireworks go off like the next day, the next day, the next night, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's that night, shoot all your fireworks and then shut up.
Yep. One big show. We don't need 4 days of fireworks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a 4-day holiday.
Maybe not illegal. Well, no, I'm gonna say it's illegal. When you listen to your phone on speaker and stuff when you're in public.
Yes.
Yeah, especially at the airport. If you're on the plane and you're just listening to your freaking show or something and you don't have earbuds in, like that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
People at the grocery
Rude.
store on FaceTime,
Mm.
kick them out of
No.
the store.
I
Kick
have
them
done
out.
that before, but it was because I needed to figure out which thing to get.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
different. Like
Yeah.
having like a conversation that lasts the whole time that you're somewhere and having it on speaker. Like put your AirPods in, do something.
Donald Trump, I know you're listening. Give every American citizen AirPods.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
And
good one.
you are required to carry them at all times.
Yes. Agree.
It's mandatory.
Yes.
One thing that I really can't stand, it's one of my biggest pet peeves, is motorcycle groups that are so loud. I hate it.
Agree. There
They
should
come
be
through the street.
Okay, I don't have an issue with that. My thing with motorcycles, because I love motorcycles, is when it's a group and they're taking up multi lanes, and you're like,
yes.
dude, this is
Yeah.
first of all very dangerous, very dangerous. We should not be in 3 lanes out of the 3 lanes.
And I don't hate motorcycles. I'm fine with them. Do what you want. But I hate when they're revving their engines.
Honestly, let's take motorcycles out of it. Revving your freaking engine in general, mine like
Illegal.
cars. Oh my god, I can't stand it.
Yeah.
No motorcycles while everyone is asleep, please.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think you should be able to have social media if you're under the age of 18.
I
You
agree.
know what? This day and age, yes. Because of
Yeah.
how, like, we're not going to get into it, but do your research. It's really effed up. Kid,
Everything's set up.
honestly, having a kid now, especially having a girl, I am so terrified for the world she's growing up in media wise. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we didn't have that much social media. We had Facebook, and I grew up having body issues. Can you imagine nowadays? Like, you have to look a certain way. I see middle schoolers here that I'm like, you look like me right now.
So weird.
Ooh.
You
It's so
know,
bizarre.
it's so
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, I agree with the whole social media thing.
Yeah. And there's ways to do that. Like there is ways to keep them from having social media, you know?
Yeah. It
And I
sucks that
also
that
think
has to
that
be a
that would
parent thing.
I think that that would also cut down on like if you had to scan your driver's license to have a social media profile, that's going to cut back on just like
Mm,
people creating like fake
fake.
profiles to troll people online too.
Oh, that's a good one too. The whole
That's
ID
cool.
thing. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, because it's like social media is such a big thing now. I feel like you shouldn't be able to just create fake profiles and post what you want and have no repercussions, you know?
Yeah.
On
No.
the age of youngins, also let's just ban marriages under the age of 21.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just
Agree.
throwing. I mean, yes, you love each other, but if you make it work forever, kudos to you. But most of the time, come on, let's just ban it.
Age of consent needs to be a federal law and it needs to be higher everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like 14 in Mississippi.
It's close to
That
that in
is
Arkansas.
Yeah,
Sick.
dude, the world.
Twisted. And with that, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Over My Dead Pod. You can follow us on social media at Over My Dead Pod on Instagram. We have Facebook. We have all the things. TikTok now, too, by the way. And if you want to see our lovely faces, you can watch us on YouTube. So follow us, like, rate, subscribe, all the things. And we will see you next week. Love ya. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.